All right, what we're going to do now, and those were the voices and faces of a variety of guys who are looking for redemption in 2020 for a variety of reasons. We are going to broaden it and expand it and draft 6 total players, 3 rounds each, of redemption candidates for the 2020 NFL season. Redemption from anything, in any way, in any shape or form. And Charean, you will have the first pick if you get the trivia question right. And you have learned the hard way that it is difficult with the time pressure of being on TV and having to process your thoughts. So we'll see how, I haven't even read this one. We'll see how difficult it is. Here we go. Antonio Brown had 6 straight years with at least 1,200 receiving yards. Only 4 other players in NFL history have had at least 6 straight years with at least 1,200 receiving yards. 4 have done it. To win this question and get the first pick in the draft, you name 2 of them.
Jerry Rice. That should be an obvious one, right? Randy Moss.
Yes. Oh, there you go. Well, there you go. Happy birthday, Randy Moss, again. 43 years old today. And yes, the other 2, Torrey. Do you know the other 2?
I wouldn't have gotten Torrey Holt. Yeah, I wouldn't have gotten Torrey Holt.
The other one's Julio Jones.
Julio Jones.
So that's it.
Yeah, I probably would have gotten Julio Jones.
Well done. You get the first pick. Redemption candidates for 2020.
Well, I'm going to go with Ben Roethlisberger instead of Antonio Brown. Ben was coming off 2 years ago, had the incident with AB, and that kind of played out. And then this past season had the elbow injury, only played 2 games. I still think he can play, and he's the last one of those quarterbacks in that draft I think can still play. Phillip Rivers obviously has moved on from the Chargers, and Eli has retired. And I think Ben's still got something in him. I think he's going to be a big candidate for comeback player of the year this year, and I think he's going to have a really good year.
Yeah, and you know what? That's great. And it's so funny. One of the realities of football, and I think this is one of the reasons why it's so hard for guys to transition to their life after football. The train just keeps moving. You get injured, you retire, you're done. It keeps going. And Ben Roethlisberger exits week 2. Steelers just keep going. And you forget about Ben Roethlisberger. It's easy to forget about him. But yeah, he's a guy who needs redemption, not the way he needed it a decade ago, different kind of redemption, but and he's in position to earn it. So I like that because if he's healthy, and my concern with Ben is the elbow is just the first body part for a guy who's pushing 40, for a guy who's never been into the TB12 pliability method, for a guy who's taken a lot of hits over the years and been injured plenty of times, is that just the first body part that's going to start breaking down? I'm going to go obvious, low-hanging fruit. Jameis Winston, we talked about him earlier. He's had the LASIK surgery. The Buccaneers are ambivalent. He's going to be playing for somebody, right? He's not going to get washed out of the league after a 130-30 season because he threw for 5,109 yards. Somebody's going to think they're going to be able to get more out of Jameis Winston if the Buccaneers don't. And I think if the Buccaneers move on from him, it makes him a little more sympathetic, and maybe it gets people to root for the good Jameis. But I think there's so much good there by way of football player, and there's been the off-field ugliness. He's been not in trouble for more than a couple of years now, which is good. And, he's still a young guy, and he's still looking for his ceiling. And to throw for over 5,100 yards, we can't understate the significance of that. So, it's hard to imagine we're talking about redemption for a guy who has the 8th highest single-season yardage total in league history. But it's those 30 interceptions. And really, it's that last one that pushed it over the top. If he just doesn't throw the pick 6 in overtime of Week 17, he's not in the 30-30 club, and it feels different. But I think Jameis Winston could be a lot better this year, and I think he has a chance to be a lot better if he stays with the Buccaneers.
Yeah, it depends on his situation, obviously, moving forward. And if Bruce Arians can't turn you around, I don't know that anybody can. So he probably does need to stay there. For my second candidate, Mike, I think I'm going to go with my guy, Myles Garrett. Obviously, coming back from the suspension that cost him 6 games last season of his own doing, no question about that. He has worked out like a fiend. And I think he's somewhere here in Arlington working out now, getting ready for next season. And I guarantee you he's going to want to have a huge season. He was having a huge season this past season with 10 sacks in 10 games. He was going to go back to the Pro Bowl. He's got 30 and a half sacks in in 2+ seasons. He didn't finish out last season, obviously. I just think this is a guy who could be a defensive player of the year. Now, he's going to have to be way, way, way better than anybody else to get that award, because people are going to be reluctant to vote for him based on what happened last year against the Steelers. But I think he's going to be a candidate for that award this year.
And it is going to be so difficult for him to strike the balance between the right level of aggression and not crossing the line. And look, he's constantly going to face questions about that after every game, during midweek media availability. How are you handling this importance of being an aggressive, rough and tough player versus not being a guy who gets himself fined, gets himself suspended, and they are going to be watching him. It's going to be a lot of pressure on Myles Garrett, and he's going to have to work hard to find that sweet spot. All right. My next guy is another person we've talked about today, and it's weird to think of redemption being a necessity. But I just look at the numbers. 60.8% completion percentage, 6.6 yards per passing attempt, which used to be okay to pretty good. Now it's 6.6. 24 touchdown passes, 8 interceptions, and a passer rating of 88, which used to be pretty good and now is bottom fourth of the league at best. Tom Brady needs some redemption this year. Tom Brady did not have a Tom Brady season. He has fallen off dramatically, statistically, over the last couple of years. Remember in 2018, he had incentives tied to his statistical performance in the 5 major categories. All he had to do is do what he did the prior year, and he earned $0.00 of those incentives. So he's been falling off from a production standpoint, and I think that part of this potential departure of the Patriots is about finding a place where he can pump up those statistics. Because, look, I don't care what guys say. These guys are all extremely competitive. And for Tom Brady to lay out all the stats top to bottom in the NFL and see how he is close to the bottom in so many categories, that's got to drive him crazy. And that may be one of the things, if anything pushes him out of New England, it may be that, because they don't have the weapons there for him to get the most out of his abilities. So put me down for Tom Brady as my second pick.
Well, you know what I wanted to go with on my third pick was Rob Gronkowski. Coming back from retirement. But after talking to him at the Super Bowl, I just really think he's happy with where he is. So I don't think he's going to come out of retirement. So as much as I want to do that clickbait and pick Rob Gronkowski coming back, I just don't realistically think that's going to happen. I'm going to go with the guy.
Hang on a second. I got a question for you. Do you think that if Tom Brady goes to a new team, Rob Gronkowski will be inclined to come back and play with Tom Brady in a new team? Now, he's going to have to get the Patriots to release his rights because he's on the reserve retired list of the Patriots. But do you think the chances of a comeback are better if TB12 goes somewhere else and gives Rob a call and says, hey, why don't you come join me with whatever team it is that he signs with?
Yes, I think absolutely that is more likely to happen if Tom Brady goes somewhere else, because I think he just got worn down in New England is what it sounds like based on what he has said. So I think he'd be willing to come out of retirement for a year to play somewhere else, or late in the season to play somewhere else and do a postseason run. He looks great. I mean, we saw the pictures on the internet of him out on the beach at Miami Beach hanging out, and his body looks great. I think he could still come back and play today if he wanted to play today. So, yeah, I absolutely think that could be the case if Tom Brady goes elsewhere.
All right. I'm sorry I interrupted you. Your choice 3 for redemption candidates for 2020.
Well, I'm going to go with a guy I think we're all rooting for, and I don't know how realistic it is that he gets back on the field, but if he just suits up as a backup quarterback for Washington, that to me is the biggest victory of this season, and that's Alex Smith. And that leg injury was just so gruesome, and everything that came after it, the infection and everything else. I just think everyone, regardless of whether you're a Washington fan or not, is rooting for this guy, Alex Smith, to come back and at least be a backup quarterback for Washington. And I know what Ron Rivera has said about this being a quarterback competition. I don't know that it's going to be that. I think Dwayne Haskins is going to be their starter week 1. But if Alex Smith can even be a backup quarterback, how great of a comeback story is that?
Oh, unbelievable. He almost lost his leg, almost lost his life. Septic infection. He detailed his situation and his health challenges with ESPN's Outside the Lines recently, and I think there's something more coming up where he really goes into detail about everything he went through to get back just to living a normal life. And now he has his sights set on returning to the field, and we're rooting for him to do it. All right, last one for me, and this one may not be as obvious, and this may surprise some because people out there think I don't like Derek Carr. I don't dislike Derek Carr. I just think he's not as good of a quarterback as the Raiders did when they signed him to a big contract. And I think the Raiders are coming to that conclusion that he may not be the guy that they need as they launch a new stadium in Las Vegas. And I don't think that, well, I think there's a good chance he's never going to be living in the house that he's building next door to his head coach, John Gruden, in Las Vegas. So the question then becomes Derek Carr with a new team. Derek Carr as a candidate to prove the Raiders wrong. Derek Carr with an even bigger chip on his shoulder. I think that could be a great story for 2020. And he becomes one of these guys that gets thrown into this crucible of chaos where quarterbacks are going to be available. And again, when the music stops, are there more quarterbacks than teams? Are there more teams than quarterbacks? But I think we're going to see Derek Carr with a new team in 2020. And even if we don't, if for some reason the Raiders can't find an upgrade, he is on notice that they are looking, that they are thinking about it, and that if he gets another chance in 2020 with Oakland, it's going to be his last chance. So whether he's with the Raiders or someone else, not Oakland, Las Vegas, whether they know who we mean, whether he's with the Raiders or someone else, it's redemption year for Derek Carr.
Boy, he's one I would like to see in Tampa. You know, we look at that list of free agents and talk about Teddy going there, but I think Bruce Arians and Derek Carr would make a great pairing with Byron Leftwich, obviously there as the offensive coordinator. But I would love to see Derek Carr in Tampa because I think they can win with Derek Carr with those receivers that they have. Again, probably the best receiving core in the NFL.
Yeah, and look, you're right. And this gets back to what we were saying earlier. For the general managers, I don't know how they're sleeping now, because you think about the whiteboards in some of these offices where they have all the possibilities laid out. You're going to need a bigger board. There's too many quarterbacks to choose from, and you better make a good decision because only your job is hinging on the performance of the team that you run.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.